Ois Dalet. Mamshir b'hamaimer. So he continues in the Maimer. This is the Maimer that the Frierdiker Rebbe said in Tzadik Ches, 50 years before the Rebbe said this Maimer. So he says in the Maimer, the Hagam sheneres Chanukah tiknu mipnei haneis shehoya b'neres hamikdash. That although the reason we have the Neres Chanukah, the rabbis instituted it because of the miracle that was with the lamps of the Beis Hamikdash, that it had oil to light for 8 days while there wasn't the Shemen Tohir. So it is connected. We're doing Chanukah because of the Neres Hamikdash, and yet there is differences between them. We have 8, and over there was only 7. We put it on the left, the mezuzah and the yamin, and the ner Chanukah mismoil. But in the Beis Hamikdash, it was on the south. The south is to your right when you're facing east. So even though the Neres Chanukah are instituted because of the Nesim Beis Hamikdash, anything that the rabbis instituted, they made it similar to the Torah. But yet there is differences in several parts. The Bahamenorah Shebemigdosh, or Uzayinatis, over there in the Menorah Migdosh, there were 7 lamps. And it was standing on the south, which is Yamin, that's the right when you face east, so that's your right. The Neres Chanukah him Shmoina. On the other hand, the lights of Chanukah are 8, and we place them on the left. And the Rebbe explains what the difference is between these two inyonim. The Rebbe explains that in the Neres Chanukah came after the darkness of after the Greeks tried to spiritually make Yidden forget Torah. We need them. We need to overcome them with the number 8, which is higher than Hishtalshalus. But in the and it's on the left because it's battling the negativity. The Beis Hamikdash, there was only 7. You couldn't put it in the left because there could be a Let's look inside. The idea is, as explained in the Maimer, the Milchemes Hayivonim Hoyso Milchama Ruchnis. The war of the Greeks was a spiritual war. To have them forget your Torah and to take them away from the chukim, from the statues, what Hashem wants us to do. So it was a spiritual war. So through this became a strengthening and overpowering. This spiritual war brought about a strengthening of the darkness of the other side. The main place where it nurtures is from the left side. So therefore, when the kingdom, the government of the house of the Chashmonoim overpowered and they were victorious, they won the Greeks, they beat the Greeks. Tiknu Neres Chanukah, so they instituted the light of Chanukah in order to illuminate the darkness. There was darkness, there was negativity, there was an attempt to make Yidden forget the Torah. It was a hisgabrus of Choshech, so we need to illuminate the darkness. That's why they instituted 8 lamps. The Shemaina hu lamayla mihishtalshalus kinal said earlier 8, 7 is the weekdays, is the Shivas Yimei Habinyan, But 8 is higher than Ishtalshlus Canal. Why did we need higher Ishtalshlus? Because we had to illuminate even the dark places. In order to illuminate also the dark places, that is specifically through a light which is higher than Ishtalshlus. So in order to be able to, even in a dark place, you need a light which is higher than Ishtalshlus. It doesn't say Havaya, it says Vi. Vi means above. Havaya is the Seder Ishtalshlus. Vi Havaya is B'toisves Vov Yagia Choshki. That will make even the Choshki light, will illuminate, will make bright even the darkness. Where does this light that is hiding in Ishtalshlus come from? That extended, that came about through the self-sacrifice of Matisyo and his son. So there's two things. On one hand, we're mamshich from a very high place, and on the other hand, we're bringing it down to a very low place. We're bringing it down from the Maila Mishtalshlus, and we're bringing it down into the Choshech. Mahainu. Sha'ashayich is the Oirze im HaChoshech Shahoya Oz Ibishnei Yonim. The connection of this light of the Maila Mishtalshlus with the darkness that was at that time is in two matters. Milmailo milmato lemailo, or milmailo lemato, from below to above, and from above to below, which means the people were inspired milmato with that level of Mesiras Nefesh, and milmailo we got the level of lemailo mishtalshelus. The Rebbe said through the Yevod, the Matisyo, and their Mesiras Nefesh, so that darkness, what it did, that the Mesiras Nefesh, because it was such a great darkness, that's Mesiras Nefesh. So that aroused, woke up by them, aroused by them the power for Mesiras Nefesh, which is higher than the ordinary Ishtalshlus within the person. When they were able to arouse by themselves the place that is higher than Ishtalshlus by the person, then they were able to bring down from the essence of Ein Sof, which is higher than Ishtalshlus, from above to below. So once you bring down this great light, the light of High Nishtalshlus, you can also illuminate the darkness. And Havaya will illuminate, will make light the darkness. So it starts milmata l'mayla by the Mesiras Nefesh that takes place mayla mishtalshlus by the person, the level of Mesiras Nefesh. And then brings down the level of l'mayla mishtalshlus l'mayla v'havaya, and then it can even illuminate even in the darkness. That's why in the dedication in the Chanukah, I guess the dedication of the Beis Hamikdash at that time, even though they dedicated it, but in the Chanukah of the light of the Mikdash, there was Zayin Neides, Umekoyma Bedorum, and the place was in the south. I'm not so sure the language here, Bechanukas Hamikdash. The Rebbe wants to explain Bechlal in the Beis Hamikdash why there were 7, but the Chanukas Hamikdash took place by the war. But okay, but the Chanukas Hamikdash there were 7 natives, and the place was south. Why? Shoir Sheir b'Mikdash, the light that shone in the Mikdash. Kimon sham shechose hoiso loyal de Mesiras Nefesh. Since how that was drawn down was not through self-sacrifice, hoyo gilui the hishtalshelus. That was a revelation in the hishtalshelus. Zayin 7 lamps, 7 is hishtalshelus, 7 days of the week. That's oilam, that's hishtalshelus. And v'lochein mokim ha'menorah hoyi b'dorim yamin. That's why the place of the menorah was on the south, which was the right. Because of that, had the menorah been standing on the north, which is the smoil left, they can have a nurturing of the outers. It can be a yenika. So that's in the Mikdash. Chanukah, which is after the Mesiras Nefesh, there are 8 lamps. A light which is higher than Ishtalshelus, which can also correct and fixes the left side, the Kava Smoil. Because that's Lamaila Mishtalshlus comes down to the Choshech and illuminates the Choshech. Because it's an Urshel Maila Mishtalshlus and it fixes that. There's no unique over there because it is actually brought down into them to correct them, also the side, left side. Hey. So the Rebbe says, based on what the Maimer explains, that through the Mesiras Nefesh of Matisyo and his sons, they brought down the light which is higher than Ishtalshelus, which is the higher level of Havaya. The Havaya de Le'elo, as the Rebbe spoke before, that the there is the level of Havaya de Le'elo, which is associated, the two levels of the that brought about the different miracles. And before we said that the Nitzochin HaMelchama was on Chav Dalet, and that represents Hishtalshlus. Here we're saying the Rebbe in the Maimer that it was Mesiras Nefesh. So the Rebbe says Yesh Loimar, so we can say Shegam Shoyrish Hanes the Nitzochin HaMelchama. Even though before we spoke that the nace of the Nitzochin HaMelchama was Chav Dalet, which was Yehudet Tator, because it corresponds to the level of Baruch Shem Kved, which is Yehudet Tator, and it's Havaya Dilatata, the lower level, Bitl Hayesh, Yesh Loimar Shegam Shoyrish Hanes the Nitzochin HaMelchama B'Havaya Le'elo Shelamaylo Me'ishtalshlus. So even the root of the Nes Melchama was in Havaya de Leila, which is Haydnish Talshlus, because we're saying here the Mesiras Nefesh of Matisyo brought about, so that would apply also to the war, so that they tapped in the level of Havaya de Leila, which is higher than Ishtalshlus. More different than we said before, it was only Chavdalit. Ki Mesiras Nefesh of Matisyo, because what was the Mesiras Nefesh that took place in the Chavdalit that was before? Oisa was Shagam Shoyu Chaloshim Uma'atim, even though they were weaker and they were fewer, they were weak and few, and yet they waged war against mighty and many. That's Mesiras Nefesh. Since we said that through their Mesiras Nefesh of Matisyo and his sons, which was behind Ishtalshlus of the person. So then they draw down the light, which was higher in Ishtalshlus, move on. So it's understood that also that miracle, that this miracle, the miracle of Nitzochin HaMelchama, that Hashem gave the mighty in the hand of the weak, and the many in the hand of the weak, which is extended, is drawn down through the Mesiras Nefesh, That comes from Havai Leila, which is higher than Ishtalshus. Why does the Maimer say that it's from Havai Latato? This that we explained in the Maimer. We brought it down before the Siv Gimel. That it was only the miracle of the enough oil for 8 days. That was the level of that took place on Chof Hey. That part of the miracle, that was for 8 days. That comes from Havai de Leila. But L'cheira, the Mesiras Nefesh was by the Milchama. That should bring the Havai de Leila. Masha'enkin Anezin Nitzachah Milchama, we says was Chav Daled, as opposed to Nezil Milchama V'gam Hanez, the Metzias Pach Hashemen. And also, he said over there that the miracle of the Nitzachah of the Milchama, and also the first miracle of just finding the jug of oil, which was a Chafhei. Actually, the other thing was actually Chavav, what's the starting from the 8th days, but the actual finding what took place on the 25th, and the Nes of the Mulchama, they explained before, that Rebbe brought it down, was from Havaya de Litata. And here the Rebbe is saying that the Cheder and the Mulchama also comes from Havaya de Le'elam. That's from the level of Ishtalshus. That's Chofhei and Chavav. Yesh Leimar. So the Rebbe says we can say Shebenisim Elu, that in these nisim of finding the Pach Hashemen and in the Tzochan HaMelchama, even though it comes from the level of Mesiras Nefesh, when it came down in Ishtalshus, as the Rebbe will explain in Sivov. But they too are rooted in Havaya de Leila. So the Rebbe is mechadish here that notwithstanding in the Maimer that it says that the shoydish of the finding of the Pach Hashemen and the victory of the war are associated with Havaya de Letato, but since the victory of the war comes through Mesiras Nefesh, which taps in to Haydin Ishtalshlus to Havaya de Leila, we have to say that also the Metzias Pach Hashemen and the victory of the war come from Havaya de Leila. Why does the Maimer say that it's Havaya de Letato? Because they were dressed up in Levushim Tivim, and that's why he came down to Havaya de Letato. Yesh Loimar. And the Rebbe says, "Shazohu gam ha'taimim." This is also from the reasons al zeh shebemaimer zeh. The Rebbe pointed out the unique of this maimer that he goes in this maimer lahashita shayom tov the Chanukah nikva gam al nis the Nitzachon HaMelchama. That is, the Yom Tov of Chanukah is also set up on the miracle of the victory of war. In this maimer, different in other Maimorim, as the Rebbe explained, he says that the Chanukah was set up only for the Neis Pach Hashemen. In this Maimer, the Rebbe asks from his question that he says, how come we didn't set up anything for the 24th? We see that he holds that the Chanukah itself is also for the victory of the war. So why is this Maimer go according to that view? That Shayomtov the Chanukah Nikva Gamal and the Nitzachon HaMelchama, that the Yom Tov of Chanukah has been set up also for the Nitzachon, for the victory of the war. Bichdei l'rames, because this is to hint to us Shagam Hanez the Nitzachon HaMelchama Shaykh Lavaya de Leila, that also the miracle of the victory of the war is connected to this higher level, to the Havaya de Leila. Kizeh Yom Tov the Chanukah b'mispar shmoina, because the fact that Yom Tov is in the number 8, Yom the Chanukah Tmanya Inun, those are 8. Ulifish mispar zemoide kinal siv gimel, because that number shows as alir shalamayla mishtalshalus, that it goes on the light that's hiding in ishtalshul. That's why it's 8. V'zeh Yom Tov the Chanukah nikva gamal anez the Nitzachon HaMelchama hu. And the reason that the Yom Tov of Hanukkah was set also in the Tzochan HaMilchama, which is the 8th Tmanya that is set up, because also the root of this miracle of the war is really in the Urshala. And that's why the Maimer goes by the view that Hanukkah was set up 8 days for the Tzochan HaMilchama, because it also comes from Havaya de Le'ela, high level of Havaya. Why does it say in the Maimer that Lepoil it was from Havaya de Letata, not Havaya de Le'ela? And the Rebbe is going to explain now in Lois Vov that it came down in Levushim of Ishtalshlos. Both. Well, Inyan who, and what's the idea over here? The Mesiras Nefesh Shamatis Yohu Ubonov Hoyse Zeh Shalachmu Neged Hayevonim. The Mesiras Nefesh was that they fought against the Greek. So, why is it that even after finding the Greek, there was they had to battle them? In other words, there was a Metzias of Greeks, and which is a result that in their own Mesiras Nefesh, it wasn't complete, because even though their Yechida brought about this, the Yechida of the person brings about the higher Ishtalshlus in the level of higher than Ishtalshlus and Havaya de Le'ela, but in their own Yechida was in a way that it was still connected to their revealed koiches, and therefore the way it came about Lamaila, that there's still a menagid. You have to fight the Yevonim. It's not like they're totally bottled. Yeshleimer. Zeh shegam la'achre hamesiras nefesh habo al yidei gilu hayichida. That the fact that even after the Mesiras Nefesh, which comes because of Gilu Yichidus, nirgash etzlom sheyeshne menagid shetzorich lilchem negdei. So still they feel that there is an opponent that you have to wage war. There is the Yevonim. There are still Greeks there, even though there's the Gilu of Yechida. So there should be no entity. Why is there still an entity by the person's feeling? Nirgash as yesem nagish tzorich lilchem negdei the fishegilu hayichida hoye ba'ofen sheshayches lekoy shayich lekoy chagluyim the neshama. The way the yichida was revealed in such a way that it's still connected to the revealed powers of the soul. The kasher gilui hayichida hu kamoshi b'mekoyma. When the revelation of the yichida is as it's in its place, the real yichida as in its place, mekibon, in its essence, in its purity, how it is, and if that is revealed, the Yechida itself, as it's like Mekiva Shebechinas HaYechida, Ein Kinegda Le'umazeh, since the Yechida has no opposition, there's no Zeh Le'umazeh, there's nobody opposite the Yechida, there is only the Neshama there. HaMesiras Nefesh Yibe'oifun She'ein Choshev Klal Oidis Menagid. So when he has self-sacrifices in such a way, you don't think about it, there's no opponent, you don't think about opponent. V'zeh HaMesiras Nefesh the Matisyo Bonov Hoyso Ba'oifun, the fact that Mesiras Nefesh Matisyo and his sons was in such a way Shelochamu Neged HaMenagdim, they waged war against the opponent. U'lefishegilu HaYechida Hoye Ba'oifun, because there, the Gilu of Yechida of the Matisyo, in the spiritual sense, was in a way Shaloch Muneged HaMenagdim. They waged war against the Menagdim. And who Lefishegilu HaYechida Hoyo Ba'oifun K'moshe Shayich L'koich Segululim, because their Yechida revelation was in such a way as it's connected to the revealed koiches, B'lochein, and therefore. Gam ha'oir shalamaylo mihishtalshlus shenimshach al yidei Mesiras Nefesh Elohem. So therefore, the oir from higher than shtalshlus that was extended through the Mesiras Nefesh, what the Mesiras Nefesh? Hanes the Masarta Geberim Yad Chalosh v'Rab Memiyatim. The Mesiras Nefesh was that the the miracle was that the Eibishter gave over through their Mesiras Nefesh, the mighty in the hand of the weak, and the many in the hand of the few. It was dressed in nature. And more than that, it was nature. There had to be war. It was still the nature of this world, this low world in which the clips are govrim, and the Yevonim had to fight them. It was a war. It was a melchama. It was a menagid over there. The menagdim are many, are strong, and many. And you have to fight against them. And that was because in their level, they were mamshichet from that level. And this is what the Maimer says. He says the war, the miracle of this war is Yichud even though this miracle is also extends from higher than Ishtalshlus, Ki ha'oir. So why is it Yichud Tato? The lower level, it's higher than Ishtalshlus. Because should be Yichud Elah. Ki ha'oir shelamaylo mi Ishtalshlus shenimshach b'nei zeh. Because the light that is higher than Ishtalshlus that extended in this miracle, Hoyo belevush shenoisen mokin lemitzias v'yeshus. It was dressed up in such a garment that allows a place for mitzias v'yeshus, Yichud Tato. So that's why it's not bittul b'mitzias where there's no menagid with complete, but it's Yichud Tato. It's bitla yesh. There is mitzias v'yeshus. Val derech ha-mesiras nefesh. The Chanukah is similar to what we explained. The Mesiras Nefesh of Chanukah, shagilu di yichida hoyu b'slapshus b'koyches hagluyim, that it came dressed up in the koyches hagluyim. So that was lechatchila the nace of the Tzochan HaMilchama. There was war. It was menagid. And then the light extended in a more higher level, that they found this one jug that was sealed with the seal of Kohen Gadol. That does not allow any room for an opponent. Because when the jug is sealed with a seal, they are not able to touch the oil and to defile it. That means already there's no menagid there. Especially when we considered being sealed with the seal of Kohen Gadol in the inner matters, it's such a light that the outers are not able to touch it at all. Also, this miracle was still dressed up in nature. The fact you found this is not a miracle that goes out from the ways of nature. This is what it says in the Maimer, Shanes, the Metzias Pach Hashemen, who Yechuda Ilah, but it's Havaye the Letato. He says that it is Yechuda Ilah, which is the bittul b'mitzias, but it's Havaye the Letato. Ki legabe Shem Havaye, because next to Shem Havaye, even the Havaye the Letato, there is no room for an opponent. But still, Shem Havaya is still a source for his havas. So therefore, that's the Metzias Pach Hashemen. It's Yichudei Ilah, but it's Havaya del Tata. Then the oir was nimshach even in a higher way. 8 days. They lit of it. That's already a miracle which is totally out of Teva. The Nez Zeina Malubish B'Teva. That miracle is not dressed up in nature at all. It's Gilu Havaya de Le'elo K'meshulamaylo Mihislapshus. This is the revelation of the Havaya, the upper level of Havaya, as it is higher than Hislapshus. So the Rebbe explains these inyonim of these 3 steps. The war was still with an opponent, because by them, their Yehido that roused by the Tisho was only as it pertains to the Koiches HaGeluyim. And therefore, there was still, in Olam Hazeh, there was opponents there, they had to fight them. It was a miracle that was dressed in nature. Then comes the miracle of finding the Pach HaShemen, which over there, it's no room for opponents because it's sealed with the seal of the Kohen Gadol. However, finding it is not something which is totally out of nature. But then comes, and that's why that is, even though it's Yichuda Ilah, but it still has a shaykhs to Elamais, a mokim for Elamais, and therefore it's Havaya de Latata. And then comes the miracle which has no chizah ba'olam, that it burned for 8 days. That's Havaya de Leil.